Hi, it's Faith. Welcome. If you were raised by a narcissistic mother, you may still hear her voice in your head. I wanted to talk about my experience being raised by a narcissistic mother and healing and reparenting myself, what it's been like. You may question yourself. You may feel guilty for having boundaries. You might even panic when your phone rings or lights up. And you may even feel triggered and not even know why. And maybe a part of you wonders, why does this still affect me? If this is where you are, then this video is for you. So hi, I'm Faith. Welcome. If you were raised by a narcissistic mother, your nervous system likely learned something very early. You likely learned that love was conditional, that peace was really fragile, and safety depended on regulating someone else's mood, someone else's nervous system, someone else's meltdowns or triggers. It's not your fault. And healing from that type of upbringing can feel pretty confusing because the wounds really don't look obvious from the outside. So why does it feel so hard to let go? You're not doing anything wrong. You need to do what's right for you. Keep yourself safe mentally and physically, emotionally, spiritually. You deserve that. Being raised by a narcissistic mother, parent, person, you're trained to be responsible for someone else's feelings. Speaking from experience and having a narcissistic mother, my needs were too much. Something else that I realized I was taught being raised by a narcissistic mother is that boundaries, I didn't even know what boundaries were. I did not hear the word boundaries or even know the concept, know what they were until I was probably in my 30s. I didn't know. And another thing too that I realized I was taught was that my value was what I could do to make them happy, make her happy, please her, serve her. That narcissistic mother teaches you how others should treat you. So then you're attracting more narcissistic people doing the same abuse to you. It's all about them, serve them. What can you do for them? Manage their emotions. It's not your fault. It's just the way you were programmed and raised. And with awareness, you can start to heal. And it's possible. It takes time. It takes time. When you do start to heal and you start to choose peace, peace seems so foreign. It really does. And I think the biggest thing I struggled was even feeling like I deserved it. Because a narcissistic mother, narcissistic parent, person makes you believe you're as low as dirt. And it's to make themselves feel better because they are wounded deeply. When you start healing and you start experiencing peace, you might start reacting in ways that maybe self-sabotage or something because you're not used to it. Because all the dysfunction you had in your life is more familiar. So when you start to become a little uncomfortable with the new peace you're experiencing, it can cause your system to panic. Just be aware of that and know, take baby steps and be kind and gentle with yourself. Romans 12:2 says, be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Think about that for a moment. Your mind, your thoughts, can transform you greatly. It's true. Isn't that amazing? That comes from Romans 12:2. Be transformed by the renewing of your mind. And remember, healing feels very unfamiliar before it feels safe. There's something else I wanted to talk about. Triggers. Your triggers are not weakness. Think about it. I know that when I received texts from her before I cut ties, my stomach would drop. I'd feel so queasy, so uneasy. And then even anything she had to say to me wasn't good. It was always some sort of criticism, some sort of negativity, some sort of, oh, you're not safe, you're in danger, and, you can't do this, you're not capable. That was her whole thing. She made me feel so incapable of anything unless I had her. If you find yourself blaming conflict on yourself, that's not weakness. You were taught that. That is your nervous system remembering survival. Psalm 13:18 says the Lord is close to the brokenhearted. Believe it. God's not disappointed by your triggers. He sees you. He sees everything that's happened to you. He knows. He'll redeem you. He will. And healing is not pretending that your triggers don't exist. Triggers are a huge part of the healing process. They're annoying. They can make you feel like you're not making progress. For me, sometimes they make me feel devastated. Devastation. Yeah, sometimes some of my triggers just makes me devastated. And people will say, well, that's not so bad. Like, why are you overreacting and being dramatic? And it's like, when you come from that type of trauma and abuse and training and programming and upbringing, you don't react normally to things around you and things in life because you've been taught the detriments of having to survive without even knowing it. And so it's, for me, I don't ignore my triggers. At first, I was very annoyed and inconvenienced by them, and they affected my mental health, my peace, my relationships, my surroundings. And I realized that, and I said, I don't want that anymore. So I started understanding and learning how to identify them, understand where they're coming from and why they're happening, and what I can do to help and to heal it. Some of the things that you can do is you can pause when you notice you're triggered. You can even write it down. What am I feeling? What is this reminding me of? What is actually true right now? In this pause, in these questions, this is where healing starts. Now, there's something I want to talk about. This point is cutting ties. I realized healing requires distance. I realized over all the years of not having contact with her, I actually did better in life. Jesus himself stepped away from manipulative demands in people. Boundaries are healthy. They're not rebellion. So remember, boundaries are not rebellion. They are stewardship. Proverbs 4:23 says, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. I love that. And guarding your heart can look like not answering calls and texts right away. That's all right. There's no need to feel guilty over that. Give yourself peace, grace, and space. You need it. You deserve it. It's okay. Keeping conversations brief and limiting access protects yourself. The last part that I want to address and talk about is reparenting yourself. One of the deepest wounds from a narcissistic parent is you won't know what healthy love is. But God says in Psalm 27:10, though my mother and father may forsake me, the Lord will receive me. God teaches what safe love looks like. Love is patient. Love is steady. Love is truthful. Love is not manipulative. Love is not conditional. Love is not earned through performance either. The more you are able to receive God's love is what I've learned, and it's been a journey. It's been a journey. So I'm not here to tell you it's easy or make it look easy. I'm just here to tell you it's possible. But the more you learn what God's love is, you can identify what counterfeit love is. If no one has told you this, you are allowed to heal. You are allowed to experience peace. You are allowed to stop carrying what was never yours. That voice that raised you does not get the final say. God does, His voice. You are loved. You are becoming new. If this spoke to your heart, comment below. I release what I was never meant to carry. And if you are walking this road, know that healing's not instant. It unfolds quietly, like light filling a room that was dark for a very long time. And God is with you in every part of it. This is Faith. Thank you for being here. Thank you for existing. I love you. And you are worthy of good things. You're worthy of peace and to love yourself. Bye for now.